Welcome, everybody. Let me see. Well, what have you thought of the meeting so far?
Great.
Awesome. Good.
Have you already introduced yourselves?
Oh, we
Maybe
did not.
as you start, we'll
Let's do
start
that.
and go right on down.
Sure.
But in addition, I'm going to go ahead and ask you the big question, and then I'll break it down a little bit later. So introduce yourself and tell me what you see as the future in aesthetic innovation.
Okay, my name is Echo Sandburg. I'm with CP Skin Health Group. I'm the Chief Brand Officer. The CP stands for Colgate Palmolive, and we have brands like Elta MD, PCA Skin, and Filorga. And I think that's a huge question, but just to be controversial, I'm going to say exosomes. And I know we'll talk more, but lots of opportunity in that space for sure.
Yeah. Steve Kreider. I have the privilege of leading marketing at Cutera. And God, I think something in the intersection of aesthetics and therapeutics. I think what these lasers are doing, they're becoming more and more precise. Not just lasers, we're talking about other technologies as well in aesthetics. And so the ability to treat therapeutic conditions that have an aesthetic effect as well is something that's going to be developed even further.
Okay. Carrie.
Hi, Carrie Caulkins. I'm the VP of Marketing for aesthetics business for the US for Galderma. And for me, it's really about that regenerative medicine. I know it's a buzzword, but the fact is people really want to actually regenerate tissue. They want to be young. But what that means is going beyond the topical, going beyond calling it a device. I think people have to take the plunge and actually get into the fact that we are acting like biologics, like drugs, and how we're actually going to change tissue function. And that's a huge step. A lot of people don't want to invest in that in industry, but I think that's truly where people want in the future and where we need to go.
Thank you.
Hey, John Parrish. I'm Chief Corporate Development Officer for Merz Aesthetics. Great minds think alike, because you stole my answer. So I would also say regenerative aesthetics, and I think part of it is if you go to a conference like this or any of the other aesthetic ones that a lot of us go to, and you asked 100 people, what is regenerative aesthetics, I think you'd get 100 different answers. Right, so I think there's just an opportunity for us on the industry side, for y'all on the clinician side, and you heard it even in the exosome thing, right? It just needs maturing. We need more standards, more data, but that's an opportunity because, as Carrie said, I think patients want to see more of themselves, less sort of artificial. And so there's a lot of technologies, whether it's topical, we have injectables, there's a lot of device solutions out there too. They're all regenerative, right? So I think that's the future for a lot of us.
Yeah, hi. My name is Brad Conlan. I'm the CEO of Bimini Health Tech. We're a med tech company, but also we have products in pipeline in regenerative medicine and PRP, stem cells, exosomes. And I think we talk about this quite a bit. We actually think the future is personalized medicine, just to mitigate the issues with biocompatibility, but also to maximize the results of the cell and the secretome and all these great things we're talking about today. And calling it regenerative aesthetics is confusing as when we called it regenerative medicine 10 years ago. So I think this group is starting to unravel the issues and start to figure out what really works in this industry.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, we're going to start down there with you again, and we're going to work this way. So, Brad, you're on
Sure.
the hot seat again, but
Yeah.
you all get the same question. And I shared it with you earlier, and it's on the list, and it keeps coming up. What's the effect of Ozempic on today and in the future of aesthetic procedures and aesthetic medicine? It's here to stay. It clearly is, it's everywhere, right? And so tell me what you think the effect's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Effects.
amazing. Semaglutides and tirzepatides, honestly, it's uniformly removing fat over the body. Obviously, there's still issues in pockets that need to be addressed through surgical or other means and laser technology. It sort of amplifies the need for plastic surgeons and amplifies the need for targeted therapies and targeted technologies. So I actually think I'm long on everything everybody at this panel is doing today, but I think the overall health benefits of these drugs are going to be wonderful as well, not just a sort of overall health improvement, not just a cosmetic aesthetic appearance improvement.
Yeah, I'd echo what Brad said. I think it's nothing but upside for all of us. I think it's a couple of things because a lot of these, I think there's cosmetic benefits and medical, as you said. The cosmetic benefits, though, get people more into like how they look, and so then it's like, okay, I've lost a lot of weight. Now what's next? Now I'm looking at a toxin or a filler or other sorts of treatments, right? Or it's also the spot effects. I think we saw sessions earlier where you get that sort of drawn effect in the face. You've lost too much, or in the body you need tightening, or so maybe it's a device solution there. So I think it's nothing but opportunity for us, and they're definitely here to stay. So.
Great. Carrie?
So I agree, and I think it's also a new tipping point for our industry. This is a completely new consumer segment who's coming into our aesthetic practices. We've had for years this consumer journey of how they come into aesthetics, and we now have this completely new segment of people. And to be fair, I think it's a time right now where we have to completely rewrite what does that consumer journey look like and what they're actually going to be looking for. I think we've heard from pioneers like Dr. Franco and his team who've created these new complete treatment packages for these patients, and how you talk to them is different than how you talk to our traditional aesthetic patient of how they come into the practice. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to expand our reach, and also thinking about then what other unmet needs they may have. Some of them, of course, overlap with our current aesthetic patients, but there may be other things we don't know yet. So I just view it as a very amazing opportunity that we should all be taking advantage of.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think we all see the opportunity. It's inevitable. It's going to come around, but it hasn't happened yet. You know, I could speak as someone who works at a company that has a body contouring device, and last year's 2023 was phenomenal for Eli Lilly and for the pharma companies that sell the GLP-1s. It was rough for us in the body contouring space, and so whatever source you look at, whether it's publicly available information for Cool Sculpting or BTL or anything like that, it was a rough year. And I knew that this question was going to come up, so I looked at some data last week that just came out. And I know it's a data-driven audience. So Spark Marketing put out a survey of 722 practices. This is the professional setting. It skews a little bit more towards med spas, but 72% of them offer GLP-1s out of their office now, and 60% of them saw a decrease in their body contouring business. So they're making more revenue. They're just getting it from different sources than they did in the past. On the consumer side, New Beauty put out a survey last week of 4,000 consumers. These are aesthetic customers. And so with the GLPs, or excuse me, of those on GLPs, 57% reduced their spend in other areas, most notably going out to dinner, ordering appetizers, all that stuff. But so 39% said that they're cutting back on their consumption of aesthetic procedures. So it's having a short-term effect, but there's reason for optimism. I think you pointed this out on the body contouring side, right? Because of those people that are on Ozempic or one of the other GLPs, 48% of them say they're more likely to get an aesthetic treatment in the future versus only 19% who say they probably are not. So we feel like it's going to come around, we just haven't seen it yet.
Yep, and that goes back to John's comment, so echo.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're thinking of it from a skin point of view, and so there's less direct impact that's happening at the moment. But if you think about rapid weight loss and the impact that can have on your skin in terms of dehydration, increased fine lines and wrinkles, the opportunity from a moisturization, from an anti-aging products, there's definitely opportunity there to build from overall.
Thank you very much, and thank you for attending. This is your first AIS, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and she comes from CP Skin Health Group, which I'm constantly saying Colgate-Palmolive, but I'm not supposed to say that. But that's the CP.
That's the CP.
And that leads me to my next question. It's going to come right back to you, Echo, and that is, what's the place in your mind for in-home skincare?
Yeah, I think there's a huge place for in-home skincare. One of the things that we saw, and I'm sure everyone in this room saw during COVID, it was an interesting time for people to be more focused on self-care and what does that mean, being more interested in professional treatments or products. And one of our brands is focused on peels, for example. So we did, at that time, innovate to bring a solution for an at-home peel. But I do think it's also important to think about other treatments and products that we're all providing, and what's the link, and helping people understand when they should be seeing a professional, and going to a professional for those various treatments that they're undergoing. But big believer, because obviously protecting that investment that you have by using the at-home products in between visits.
Some of the physicians who have pushed back on me on this, and I happen to agree with you, I think in-home skincare is going to be huge. But they talk about cannibalization as their office procedure. And I tell them, look, you brush your teeth a couple times a day, and yet you still see the dental hygienist 4 to 5 times a year. I see it as home is like brushing your teeth, and you go back to the physician's office, the esthetician, and you get your whatever it is, hydrofacial, silk peel, glow, whatever it is that you go to see your esthetician for. I don't see it as cannibalization at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's helping to deliver the better
Continuous
results
care.
of that multimodal treatment plan that you have.
I agree. Steve, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think just to add, I like what Dina, I think, said earlier about True Facial. First of all, it's great that she's blazing that trail, but when you look at, she mentioned Dyson Vacuum, you start looking at Therabody and what they're doing and the outlets they have at the malls and everything, you can clearly see a future where not just facial devices, but body contouring and everything like that has a place at home too. So it makes a lot of sense.
I asked her if she'd start True Body instead of True Facial. So why not?
We'll see.
How about you, Carrie?
Yeah, I agree. I think people want to have the ease of having something at home. I think it's a great complement to in-office procedures as well. I think what's just scary is now with the rise of social media and the skin influencers and people thinking they're experts in skincare at home, it's just how do you cut through that clutter? And that's our challenge as industry of getting out what is facts versus just someone's latest snake oil they want to put at home. And the problem is you see now teenagers thinking they need all these products, and it's like, your skin is great for the most part. You don't need these crazy serums, and either they're doing maybe way too early and causing more harm than good in the future. I think it's just a balance of, it's exciting, but at the same time, how do we manage what's happening? It's something out of our control.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I'd probably echo things I've heard. Definitely, absolutely a role for skincare and as part of aesthetic medicine makes a huge difference. I agree with Carrie though, like it's such a noisy space. There's so many products out there. Some of them are credentialed, some of them are not. And there's so many channels you can get products. There's low barriers to entry, and people can say whatever they want on the boxes quite often, right? And so it makes it hard for us, those of us here, trying to do it the right way. And you go in and you talk to customers and whatever, and they're inundated with people doing it not the right way, right? And it's hard for them to cut through it all because they got 1,000 other things they're thinking about. And so that's the challenge I think from this panel, like on the industry side, thinking about it, but absolutely a role in clinical medicine, absolutely a role in your practice as far as a business too. So it's just how do we deal with it? I think that's an evolving topic for me.
Yeah, I think it's market expansion, and which is important because we talk about this all the time with our research and development team. We talk about comparing convenience versus performance, and net convenience usually wins, and at-home therapies are going to win just because people are naturally have a tendency to go for convenience over a high-end performing product. So I think you have to strike the balance of both, but I view it as just purely market expansion.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to ask about your crystal ball, but I want your opinion, all of you, and I'll start with Brad. Where are we going with exosomes?
This is such a low. I'm going to bring Steve back in. Just kidding. I think looking back, all of these category expanding technologies, whether it's gene therapy 30 years ago, stem cell therapy 15 years ago, and exosomes today, they almost always follow the same sort of life cycle, a sort of a boom, bust, and build. And we can have an academic debate about where we are with exosomes, but I just think this is the latest thing that we're going to flesh out indications that get approved that are big therapeutic improvements to quality of life for people. But along the way, the cosmetic and aesthetic industry is going to drive it along and help pay for that research and development because, frankly, that's what makes money now. The cosmetic industry makes cash, the therapeutic industry burns cash until it gets approved. So I think you need both, and I just think it's just the next big thing, and it's unfortunately going to take a lot longer than we all want to get a therapeutic approval.
And I'm just going to ask you a question as far as Bimini goes. Did I hear you say you are in the exosome business?
We have
Or you're about to come out with something?
We're coming close. We have an autologous blood-based product. So Bimini sells a lot of PRP tubes. We have a great partner in Crown Aesthetics. So anytime you see a ProGen tube, that's made by Bimini. So we have a natural extension to isolate your own autologous exosomes, microvesicles, and apoptotic bodies, or EVs. So we hope that's something we'll see late this year, early next year.
Okay, John, what do you think? Future of exosomes? Bullish, but it's, Brad said, it's going to take a while. I think we got a long ways to go to get the data to support it. And my fear is, and I think one of the clinicians mentioned this earlier, is that somebody's going to fudge it up for all this, right? You're going to get like the compounding scandal is going to happen here, where somebody's infusing exosomes and something goes bad and it's going to take the whole thing down, right? So that's the risk, and it's one of the rare times where I think more regulatory overview might actually be a good thing for all of us to like make sure that people are developing these products the right way. But clearly, despite limited data, there's so much demand for these products right now. It just tells you like what consumers want. They're really interested in regenerative treatments and opportunities, and I think that'll sustain. So we just got to do the work for them.
Well, I'm sure that most of these people in the audience recall this, but just recently your company, Merz, put $3.5 million
Yes.
into Acorn.
Yes, we
and
did.
that's the harvest of the hair follicle and cryopreservative, not necessarily the product, but the actual preservation.
No, absolutely, and part of it is what Brad gets. Part of why we like it is because it's an autologous solution now. So from a safety, regulatory perspective, it's a little higher ground than kind of where exosomes are in terms of doing injectables or those sorts of things with exosomes. So for us, it's a really nice step. Love Drew and the team, learning a lot from them. It's been a great collaboration. So.
Yeah, I just wish I would have given my hair follicles when I was a teenager.
Yeah, it's too late, right?
Yeah, it's a little late, but Drew still took a bunch out of my head. So hopefully
Never too late. Yeah,
hopefully I'll never need them, but who knows. Okay, Carrie, where are we going with exosomes, and where is Galderma going to be?
I don't think Galderma has decided where they want to go with exosomes, to be fully frank. I think that we see the opportunity. I think it's amazing that there's so much interest. I think that the consumer demand is there. I appreciate companies like Rion that are actually doing trials, they're actually injecting it like I mentioned previously. We're going to talk about how people want to use it. They want to combine it. I think that's the difference of what we have. Our struggle, again, as industry is we tend to be single therapy approvals, right? It's very hard to get combination therapy approved by the FDA. And the fact is we know people are already playing with exosomes, they're combining it with fillers, so I'm in the filler space. And there is that risk that was mentioned of concern that some of these products come in overseas, they're not regulated, they're not meant to ever be injected, and yet they're combining them. And our concern is let's just find the right pathway to do that, to what people want to do. So I think it's super exciting. I just think it's a long road of how we're going to find that pathway, but I really appreciate what some of the companies are doing to try to follow that path and blaze it for everybody else to make sure we do get safe and effective products that then we can use in more exciting ways, like people want to.
Yep.
They want to inject them. They want to combine them with other modalities.
Thank you. Steve?
I have nothing to add.
What?
I have nothing to add.
Nothing to
They,
add.
they all
Okay.
said it really
Well,
well.
that's
We're
rare.
going to be opportunistic. We're going to look at combination treatments. We're not going to get in this space specifically, but may the best company win, and we look forward to working with them. So,
Super.
yeah.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah,
What
I
do you
think there's obviously been a lot of passion around it, which shows that there's something there. There's a lot of caution we should all take. There's data that needs to be better understood. We look from a topical, can you get topical efficacy, but completely agree that that's how physicians want to use it, is multimodal. So how does it all play well together? And it's been exciting to see some of the results that some of the providers we work with have seen. So a space to be studied further.
Okay, thank you. Next question, and if you don't have an answer or you don't have an opinion, that's fine, as Steve did. What's the future of non-surgical skin tightening and body contouring?
This is not my space.
Wow. Well, I'm hopeful, and I see it similar that you do, right? That we're going to expand the market here, and that it's going to be a great opportunity. And I just hope that the dollars that are being spent on the Ozempic, I didn't mention this part of that consumer study. So I think we all think about the post-Ozempic phase and the loss of muscle as the primary concern. In that study, the primary concern was actually around skin tightening, laxity, skin tone, all of that.
Right.
Muscle tightening and muscle building was number 2. So so I hope we just continue to grow the TAM. And the other observation I think about aesthetics and maybe what we're seeing play out with the whole Ozempic craze is, in the past, we always talked about the super consumers, right? Eddie's phrase and the whole idea that these aesthetic consumers in Orange County and Miami and New York can just consume more and more and more. As this becomes more of a mainstream category, we're seeing more of a fixed pie that they're dealing with. So the $300, $400, $500 they're spending on the GLP-1s per month is crowding us out a little bit right now. So hopefully the price on those comes down. It always does. And their wallet opens up to, body contouring and skin tightening.
Yeah, that whole concept of the aesthetic or cosmetic wallet is very interesting to me, because now a disproportionate amount is going towards the weight loss.
That's right.
With Ozempic and others like Ozempic. But I think with time, that's going to change and go the other direction, between the lowering of the price of the pharmacologics as well as they hit their weight goal. We're going to have a steady state instead of this accelerating thing.
That's it.
And then they're going to be left with the skin tone issues.
Yeah.
And the bulges of fat that they can't get rid of even though they've lost the weight. The bulges will be more apparent, not less apparent, because everything else is skinny. So the guys with their love handles, they're going to hate those love handles. So I think that's why they're going to come in for body contouring, and likewise the women's stuff. You, Carrie?
No, I think for as long as I've been in this space, skin tightening has always been one of the biggest unmet needs, and it's not going to go away. So I agree with your point that Ozempic's just going to accentuate it even more. I think what was a great panel earlier as well of what people want. They don't want to have to go through a million treatments. They don't want to have to go through pain, but they want to have a really great result. And so I think there's still a lot of opportunity to finding what is that modality that's going to get people there, that's going to meet all of those, check all those boxes, and of course be affordable. I mean, we have some great injectable products now that have some good results, but let's face it, again, the best results are when people combine things. So how are we going to get to that next step? What is going to be that future? I think there's a lot of opportunity still.
Thank you.
Yeah, probably just repackage what's been said. Skin tightening, very bullish on for the reasons described, whether that's a device approach or a dilute biostimulator. Contouring, yeah, Steve's data doesn't surprise me. You could kind of see that might have a little bit of headwind at first, right? As these products come in and people are spending their sort of body shaping money on the drugs. But eventually, I agree with you, Grant. They're going to lose all this bulk weight, and then they're going to want that one little spot, right? And that's typically best addressed with the device now, and so that'll be sort of the follow-up thing a year or two down the road, right? Where it's that one stubborn bit, that'll always be there. So.
Can I add something?
Sure.
What we forget is we talk about that one bit you want to keep getting rid of, but we forgot about what was mentioned earlier, like the Ozempic butt. Like people still want augmentation in certain places.
Yes.
And they would love to have some type of stimulant that would actually give you that without having to do an implant or the fat grafting. They just lost all that fat. They don't want to then go through that to then replace to get that better butt, to get those better breasts. I think that's another thing that's an unmet need that we've yet to solve of how to actually focally stimulate fat in the right places. Because that's what people
faces too, right?
Faces too.
Butts and face, right? Because you want to lose the weight in the midsection, but faces and butt, that's the problem with these things, and so that's where we're seeing a lot of use of our products right now. Yeah, I'm sure you guys are too. So.
Well, along those lines, we need more affordable exogenous fillers that might be used in the buttocks, the breast, and elsewhere instead of these ridiculous budgets that I'm confronted with constantly to augment small improvements of the butt. But how about you, Brad?
Yeah, I think a lot of the same comments, just echoing a few more things. I mean, you have millions of people losing a lot of weight really quickly. So I think the non-invasive market's going to explode with skin tightening, but also I think the body contouring market is going to probably be shaped from sort of bulk removal of fat tissue more towards reshaping and removing the problem areas now being discovered via Ozempic or Mounjaro. So I think that's really interesting. The other piece is like what you said, Grant, what are you going to fill it with? You're going to fill it with fat plus exosomes.
Or the fat's gone.
Or the fat's gone. So you need some sort of large volume filler that's acceptable to the body.
Okay. We're right on time, but before we finish, and we're going to be having awards, so please don't go, and then we have a wonderful cocktail and networking session, but before that, thank you for coming. Now, tell us what we should be looking at for next year. Brad, we'll start with you. What should we as a group here with AIS add to next year's program?
That's a good question.
Or continue with if you want. But
I
what
think,
should we be looking at? We have 10 months to put it together.
Yeah, I think Lilly and Novo are just driving this whole industry with Mounjaro and Ozempic, and I think we're just discovering new value chains, new revenue sources caused by them causing this major macro shift in the market, not just from improving people's appearances, but just better health. So I think this will allow us to finally get to sort of second order therapies that are more like personalized medicine or your own personal fillers, your own banked fillers, and then also just new treatments like the rest of the panel can probably speak to much better than I can.
Okay.
I think you're spot on. I mean, regenerative aesthetics, let's see where it's come a year from now, right? I think that'll be fascinating to see if the market's evolved. I'm not a laser guy, like I don't play in that world. It's actually really interesting to see all the stuff going on in laser, so I found that to be fascinating. So it seems like things are happening all the time there with the different companies, so I'd love to just kind of get the new updates from those folks. So yeah, I think the program's been great. More is good.
Okay.
I echo that. I love the technology, I love the regenerative medicine. I think something else to think about maybe though is how the business models of practices are shifting. And one of the other trends we see is people are becoming much more holistic. And so that patient does want that one-stop shop, but it's just beyond aesthetics. It's also about their nutrition and their hormones and all of that as you're aging. We're finding a lot of interest now at some special conferences of how they're incorporating all of that into their practice. So and this brings in the Ozempic as well, right? Because weight loss becomes a part of it. So it's really more about just that aesthetic part, but also overall wellness for your body, what's needed as you're going through this process of aging.
Okay, excellent suggestion.
So Carrie mentioned something to the effect of we need to cut through the crap and deliver the real information, and I think maybe a way to get this group rallied behind something with the core plastics and core derms. I think you all have done a phenomenal job the last 10 years in branding yourselves. You've got celebrities amongst us, all that kind of stuff, but let's use it for good advocacy and good information, because there is so much crap that comes out through TikTok and Instagram and the thing about double washing your face and all that other stuff that you all need to step up and course correct the information that's out there, and you've got a unique opportunity to do it. So how do we use what you all have built or built a community where we get the right information out there?
And how do you see us incorporating that into AIS next year?
I don't know. I think we got 10 months to 11 months to think about it.
Okay.
So let's
Put
do
on your
that.
thinking cap and
I
let
will.
us know.
Yeah.
We want to deliver the best product we can.
Yeah.
Keeps people in the seats and enthusiastically responding. Okay, you have the final word on this. What should we do? This is your first year.
This is my first
Hopefully
year.
you'll be back next year.
We'll definitely be back.
What do you want to hear about?
I think it's very valuable to hear from the physician point of view and how they're thinking about solving some of the challenges that were discussed, and how they're thinking holistically about the patient needs and the various different aspects of what they could choose in their toolkit to address those. It's helpful for us to think about that and connecting the dots, because there are more opportunities that are available, and how they're thinking about it from their point of view.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for sitting on this panel and sharing your insights with us.